Wildfire is but one of the dreaded secrets of our ancient order. Many and wondrous are the things that we might show you. Hailing to Tyrion Lannister, A Clash of Kings Chapter 20, Tyrion 5. The Guildhall of the Alchemists is home to the Alchemists Guild of King's Landing. While their order is very old, it is also small. While most members practice pyromancy, the guild does not exclusively practice this art. A full member of the Alchemist Guild is called a wisdom. We have no record of where this naming scheme comes from, but it is assumed they likely came from the people who used the guild in ancient days, appealing to the alchemists' wisdom. The guild, while distinctly different than the maesters of the Citadel of Old Town, does have some similarities. For example, most full members also have apprentices and acolytes to assist them. The guild was powerful in its early years, and they once claimed to be able to transmute metal, for example, turning scrap iron into gold. However, by the time of the reign of King Robert Baratheon, their abilities and influence have greatly diminished. Now only a few older men remain, with few younger men joining to carry on the teachings of the guild. Although they still might possess vast secret tomes of knowledge, the guild only currently demonstrates the skill to create wildfire, hence why many of the small folk of King's Landing have simply taken to calling them the Pyromancers Guild. The wildfire is created within the guild's headquarters, located on the Street of the Sister, closer to the Visenya's Hill. The hall is an imposing labyrinth of cold black stone. Great care is taken when producing wildfire. Above each cell is a room filled with sand. The floor below has protective enchantments placed upon it. Any fire within the cell will cause both floors to fall and sand to drop, smothering the fire instantly. Trained acolytes prepare the product in bare stone cells, and once a jar is ready, it is immediately removed by apprentices and brought to one of their many secret vaults. The substance was the pyromancers' own term for wildfire. They called each other wisdoms as well, which Tyrion found almost as annoying as their custom of having the vast secret stores of knowledge that they wanted him to think they possessed. Once theirs had been a powerful guild, but in recent centuries the maesters of the Citadel had supplanted the alchemists almost everywhere. Now only a few of the older order remain, and they no longer even pretend to transmute metals, but they could make wildfire. The thoughts of Tyrion Lannister, The Clash of Kings Chapter 20, Tyrion 5. While the Alchemist Guild itself is assumed to be at least as old as King's Landing, this appears not to be the case. Several times it's described as an ancient guild, with Archmaester Gildane suggesting the organisation was supplanted by the Maesters of the Citadel, with near on every keep in the Seven Kingdoms having its own Maester. This may suggest that some form of the guild existed before the founding of King's Landing, and may even be older than the Maesters of the Citadel themselves. More evidence to this is the fact that for the first 170 years of Targaryen rule in Westeros, it seems House Targaryen had little use for the guild or its wildfire. Why would they need it if they had the power of dragons at their disposal? Things seem to have changed after the Dance of the Dragons, between 129 and 131 AC, which is when the power of House Targaryen weakened significantly, with near on all their dragons dead as a result, with a few they had left remaining dying in the years after. With the loss of the power that dragons gave House Targaryen, some kings began to look towards the wildfire of the guilds to fill that void. The first attempt came during the reign of King Aegon IV, between the years 172 and 183 AC. Aegon dreamed of bringing dawn into his realm via conquest, and commanded the guild build him new dragons. Thus, the pyromancers constructed hide dragon-shaped devices fitted with pumps that shot out jets of wildfire. With his new dragons ready, Aegon would march on dawn, but he only made it as far as the Kingswood south of the Blackwater Rush, when one of his dragons went up in flames, which quickly spread to the other 6 devices. All 7 were destroyed, and an estimated quarter of the forest burned with them. Aegon abandoned his invasion, and never rebuilt his dragons. It is assumed that with the failure of the dragons, the guild was left out in the cold once again, until a new use for their skills could be found. The blood of the dragon gathered in one, 7 eggs to honour the 7 gods, though the king's own septon had warned. Pyromancers, Wildfire. Flames grew out of control, towering and burning so hot that, die, but for the valour of the Lord Commander. The burned remains of a letter written by Maester Corso regarding the tragedy at Summerhall, a world of ice and fire, the reign of King Aegon V. During the reign of King Daeron II and the early reign of King Aerys I, in the years 109 and 110 AC, the Great Spring Sickness struck King's Landing. The death toll was so high in King's Landing that it was taking far too long to collect the bodies and burn the remains of the dead, only emboldening the spreading of the disease. Brendan Rivers, Bloodraven, the hand of the king to King Aerys, ordered that all of the dead be brought to the ruins of the dragon pit on the hill of Rhaenys. The bodies were said to be piled several feet high, and the smell was unbearable. The Pyromancers used wildfire to burn the dead in huge pyres like had never been seen before. Over the next few days, the light of the wildfire pyres could be seen as a dark green glow throughout King's Landing during the night and even into the day. But it appears at some stage they lost control of the pyre and a significant portion of the city burned as a result. Given the events of Aegon IV's new dragons and the pyres in the dragon pit, it appears while the guild was good at making wildfire, they certainly had trouble controlling it. Sometime during 194 AC, Prince Aerion Targaryen, Aerion Brightflame, the son of the future King Maekar Targaryen, drank a jug of wildfire, believing that it would turn him into a dragon. It only served to burn him to death. How Aerion got the wildfire is not known. However, it is assumed someone from the guild had given it to him. At the end of the reign of King Aegon V, in the year 259 AC, the king would gather his whole family at the Targaryen palace of Summerhall in the Dornish Marches to celebrate the coming birth of his first grandchild, Rhaegar Targaryen. But there would be a terrible fire that would destroy the palace and kill most of the royal family, the king included. While we cannot know for sure what happened inside the walls of Summerhall, it is believed that the Pyromancers of the guild were involved in some capacity. It has strongly been suggested that King Aegon V used the event to try and hatch dragon eggs with wildfire involved in the process. Let him be king over charred bones and cooked meat. Let him be king of the ashes. The Mad King Aerys II, to Wisdom Rosart, A Clash of Kings, Chapter 48, Daenerys 4. The Alchemists enjoyed a period of increased influence during the reign of King Aerys II Targaryen, visiting his court more frequently as the king's fascination with wildfire increased, along with his deepening madness. When Aerys tasked the Pyromancers with driving off the winter at the start of 282 AC, they burned wildfire along the walls of the Red Keep for well over a moon's turn. For once, however, it does seem they were able to control the wildfire. Later during that year, Aerys was very much now the Mad King that has now become legend. He began using wildfire to burn traitors, murderers and plotters. When Brandon Stark had come to the Red Keep demanding the return of his sister, Lyanna Stark, by Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, Aerys had him and his companions arrested for treason and summoned Lord Rickard Stark to court. Aerys viewed Brandon's threats as treasonous and thus offered Rickard trial by combat. Lord Stark accepted, only for Aerys to name fire his champion. Rickard burned to death as countless in the throne room looked on. Wisdom Rosart, the Grand Master of the Guild, supervised the executions, and while the king rewarded him with the title of Lord and added him to his small council in a non-specific role, the power of Rosart would only grow further in the months to come. The execution of Rickard and Brandon Stark would then directly lead to Robert's rebellion. During the rebellion, King Aerys tasked Rosart and two other pyromancers, Gargius and Bellis, with creating a vast quantities of wildfire for his plan to destroy King's Landing should the war be lost. When Hand of the King, Carlton Chelstead, opposed Aerys' plan and renounced his duties in disgust, the Mad King had him burned to death with wildfire and named Rosart his next and final hand. This was ultimately one of the reasons why Sir Jaime Lannister would kill both Rosart and King Aerys during the sack of King's Landing, to prevent its destruction. Days after the sack, he hunted down Gargius and Bellis and killed them as well. This was not the end of the guild, however. though much of the skill needed to make wildfire was lost. By war's end, there was still vast quantities of wildfire hidden throughout King's Landing that needed to be removed. The few acolytes who remained at the guild were inexperienced in destroying the wildfire, thus some jars remained in vaults of the guild, while others were lost and forgotten about. By the time of the main books, during a clash of kings, the alchemists find a cache of 200 jars of wildfire under the Great Sept of Baelor in the year 298, and then a further cache under the Dragon Pit. During the War of Five Kings, Queen Regent Cersei Lannister commissions 10,000 jars of wildfire for the defences of King's Landing. Tyrion Lannister, the acting hand of the king, meets with Wisdom Hallin in the Guildhall of the Alchemists. Hallin later reports an unexplained increase in the effectiveness of their spells, noting that it has not been as easy since the time of dragons. Unbeknownst to them at the time, Daenerys Targaryen had just hatched 3 living dragons. The wildfire would later go on to play a key role during the defence of King's Landing from an attack by Stannis Baratheon, whose fleet was destroyed on the rush by boats filled with wildfire. During the wedding feast of King Joffrey Baratheon and Margaery Tyrell, 4 pyromancers entertained by conjuring beasts of living flame. Later, Lord Helene and his guild of alchemists are employed by Cersei to burn down the Tower of the Hand after the death of Tywin Lannister.